Good evening, everyone. We'll call this meeting to order of the Township Mapleton Council on Tuesday, April the 8th, 2025. If you're able, everybody in this room, please rise for O Canada. Any declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. First of all, I'd just like to congratulate MPP Matt Ray on being the whip for the Conservative Party, being named that, as well as his maintaining his position with the Municipal Affairs and Housing. That's good for Mapleton that MPP Ray is in that position for all that we have going on in the future and we're working on now, and he's been an integral part of helping us navigate with the provincial government, and I'm glad he's in that position still. Confirmation of minutes, moved by Councillor Otten, seconded by Councillor Woodham, that the minutes of the Township of Mapleton Council meeting held on March 18, 2025 be confirmed as circulated in the agenda. Any comments? All in favor? That's carried. We have no matters arising from minutes, nothing under the Planning Act today. We have no delegations. We'll move on to item 8.1, which is the Economic Development Committee. And it's moved by Councillor Woodham, seconded by Councillor Ottens, that the Township Mapleton Council received for information the draft minutes of the Economic Development Committee meeting held on February 10th, 2025. Were you going to speak on it or say anything? Nothing? Okay. Any comments or questions from council? All in favor? It's carried. Moving right along, we have the building department report. Go ahead, Mike. You can sit right there and do it. You got a mic now.
All right, great month for building department. Permit came in every day February, so 28 permits, $64,000, $850. It's triple our average for February, so it's a great month. That's it.
So moved by Councillor Otten, second by Councillor Woodham. The Township Mapleton Council received information, Building Department Report, BD 2025-04, dated April 8th, 2025, regarding permit activity for the month of February. All in favor? It's carried. Next thing you know, the Finance Report, Municipal Service Corporation endorsement and next steps.
Thank you, Mayor Davidson. This report is the next step in what's been a long journey for the township to establishing a municipal service corporation. So report touches on all the steps that have taken place since the original RFP issued in the fall of 2023, which awarded a contract to Graham Capital to lead this initiative, starting a municipal asset partnership. Since that time, we've followed all the legislative requirements under OREG 59906 to establish a municipal service corporation. Most recently, council and the public were presented the business case study, and also a public consultation was held for the legislative 30-day period. Through that process, we received no negative comments or feedback on the MSC itself. So since that time, we've moved forward with Graham Capital Partners and our own internal legal support from SV Law to take the next steps. That brings us to tonight's meeting, where council is being asked to formally endorse us moving forward establishing a municipal service corporation. With that endorsement in place, we can move forward with establishing a business name for the MSC, starting to work towards transition to the MSC, a number of other internal processes. Coming back to council, we would bring the legislative requirement for an asset transfer policy. At the same time, this report does outline the proposed setup for the board of directors for the MSC. That setup was based on what was previously put in place and successful with Graham Capital's last MSC establishment in the town of Wetaskiwin. That would include 3 staff members from the township, 1 staff member from Graham Capital, 1 member of council, and 1 member of the public. So that's the point we're at this evening. The recommendation is obviously seeking support and endorsement of moving forward with establishment of municipal service corporation, and direction for staff to come back to council on the outcomes of a recruitment process for the public member of the board of directors. With that, just thank everybody that's been a part of the process so far. We still have a long ways to go over the next couple months to stand up the MSC pending your approval, but it's been a lot of work over a long period of time, and it takes a team to do that. So with that, I'll hand over for any questions.
The resolution is moved by Councillor Woodham, seconded by Councillor Ottens, that council endorse the creation of a municipal service corporation for water and wastewater services based upon the business case study and public consultation undertaken throughout February 2025, and further that staff be directed to report back to council on the recruitment outcomes for a member of the board of directors from the general public. Questions, comments, discussion? Councillor Ottens.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I think I would like to see more than 1 member of the public on here. Maybe a bigger board. I mean, this would increase the board then, and possibly another member of council as well. We are responsible for this, so I feel like putting all that on the shoulders of 1 council member is quite a responsibility. So if we added 2 more members, that would make it an 8-member board, but I think that's fine for something of this size.
Councillor Reid.
Through you, Mayor, I actually was going to suggest the same thing as Councillor Ottens. Having 2 members of council and 2 public was my thought as well.
Okay. Mr. Kelly.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Davidson, and thank you for the feedback, members of council. I think from staff's perspective, I can speak on staff's behalf that we would have no issues with expanding the board to include that. The key piece of the board is that the majority of board members are from the public, like from the township ourselves, not from the private sector company that's a part of this project. So expanding the board to include an additional member of council and an additional member of the public, I wouldn't see an issue with that.
Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only thing about adding 2 more is we stay with an even number. And I like the idea of boards having an odd number, tie breaks, all that good stuff. I don't know what the voting scenario would be around that particular horseshoe, but in which case, I don't know which part of the recommendation we would pivot on to make it 7. But the other part, if I can, just a secondary question, is around the kind of recruitment strategy for said board members. you know, the recommendation kind of identifies that there'd be a report back on the recruitment outcomes. The wording on page 2 talks about council identifying a participating member of council and endorsing the selection of a member of public. So I'm just curious, the appointment of this board, would it come from council? Would it come from staff? Just kind of looking for some clarity on how that would play.
Sure. Through you, Mayor Davidson, to Councillor Martin. So 2 parts to that. I guess the first part, obviously, yeah, that it would be beneficial to have an odd number of board members for voting purposes. My understanding is that the Articles of Incorporation, which are being drafted right now by SV Law, would outline any details with regards to voting if we were to have an even numbered board. I'm sure the Articles of Incorporation will make sure clears that up. That being said, obviously an odd number would make it extremely easy to decide how votes move forward. The second piece of your question, and I did think of that, we did think of that somewhat as an option. I do know in the case of another municipality in Ontario that established an MSC, they did come to council ahead of time with a skills-based criteria that they would use to evaluate who the board member from the public would be, score them based on that, and then come forward with the recommendation. I think we'd probably be comfortable, and I'd let Manny probably speak to this, moving forward with a similar approach where we establish criteria ahead of time that we're going to evaluate. We'd bring back a recommendation based on that scoring for council and your approval. And then with regards to the council appointees, we leave that to council to decide who the council appointees are. Staff aren't, I don't think, making a recommendation who that would be. But Manny, if you have anything to add.
Go ahead. Thank you. Through your worship. So well, we spoke a little bit earlier, and I agree with you. And one of the things that I thought of is one of those board members, it could either be, you know, the president or even the secretary can be non-voting, right? And then that automatically makes it 7 if there's 2 and 2. And then, and so I just kind of, yeah, about that. And then it doesn't, everything stays the same. But voting is odd numbers. And just the one thing that I want to make clear that, and I know you understand it, but just to make sure that's understood is, you know, we can have 1, 2 members, 3 members, 4 members of the board be council members, but this board only recommends to council, and council as a whole, and this horseshoe has the final decision-making. So I just wanted to make sure that was highlighted as well.
And just for clarity, our county council has 16 members, so it's an even number. And if it's a tied vote at 8-8, then it's a lost vote, and that's how they do it. Just like here, if we were missing 1 member, it'd be 4 of us, and it'd be a 2-2 would be a lost vote. Same process would happen in this situation. I do like Mr. Kelly having a criteria and putting, you know, prospective citizens that go through that criteria, and then bringing that back to council with the recommendations and the scoring of the individuals, so we can see that. That'd be, I think that'd be very preferential for council, so we can see and who we're endorsing to go in those positions. Go ahead.
Just to clarify on that, is it council's, I guess, direction that we use a skills-based criteria to evaluate the applicants? The criteria, I don't know if I think everyone here has probably looked at a lot of materials from another municipality in Ontario that's established an MSC. I don't think we would deviate much from the skills criteria that they use to find their public member. So I would hope we can move forward with that standard skills criteria, put it out to the public, and then bring back the evaluations for council.
I see a lot of head shaking yes, so in agreement, so I would suggest that's the way we go, and council endorses that. And then from hearing from council would like to have at least 2 board members being from the public and 2 more members from council, so that would be something that we're implement as well. We could talk about whether we want one of those members being non-voting, but I don't see an issue with all members that on that. Like I said, if it's a tie vote, it's just a lost vote. It still works out no matter what you do. Councilor Martin?
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, just back on the recruitment piece of board members. The MSC is currently set up to really address water and wastewater at the moment. So two things. You know, if you're looking for, you know, private sector expertise, are you looking for kind of specifics, skill sets around water and wastewater? Are you looking at board experience, you know? If there's an opportunity to expand an MSc moving forward, would more general skills around that level of expertise be, you know, appropriate? I don't know, just a question I had. And then secondly, uh-oh, I just lost it.
So, go ahead, Patrick.
Sure. Well, while you think of what the second one is, I can just go over, it's really short. The skills criteria used by the other municipality was that they had an engineering, civil, environmental, or water background, had financial expertise, governance skills, corporate social responsibility, risk management, and board experience. Those were kind of the factors that they were evaluated based upon. I think that gives a good cross-section. Obviously, the focus on water and wastewater, civil engineering side of things that we need for this, the MSc as it exists right now, but also does touch on board and governance experience.
We kind of covered everything you were just talking about. And then that's be like a point system, and you get points for everything, so, okay. Next question. Do you remember it?
Yeah, the part that I gapped on was, so tap in place versus an application-based process. Is there an advantage to one or the other, using the same sort of scoring? Like a tap in place versus application-based, like if you're using the same evaluation criteria or selection criteria, like is there a speed in which this board needs to be in place, I guess is my question.
Manny?
Yeah, well, the board needs to be in place, I think, by the end of May, if I'm not mistaken. So I would encourage tapping someone to apply, right? So not necessarily just tapping, but there's somebody that we might not know of, and I think there's an engineer that we know of that lives here that could apply as well without tapping, so. But I think it's such a close-knit community that we all probably have people in mind already that we want to tap on our shoulders, and I bet you if I had to guess, they're almost the same out of everybody, but I think both, but for sure application, because there might be a kind of a diamond in a rough there that we're missing too. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So we'll put something out in the media and our social media, and Patrick will be all over on LinkedIn and put it all out there so that we get the right people to apply. And the more the merrier. If to get a lot to apply, we're going to get the best situated person situated for the board. Further questions, comments? Go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Davidson. I guess my other question, everybody else was asking, establishing the business name, how will that process look like?
I would say that staff have been working with Graham Capital on some potential naming options. Obviously, keeping the name pretty broad strokes, again, speaking about the existing status of the MSc, but what the future holds, so not calling it something that ties our hands to that, but we have yet to finalize a name or proposed name at this point in time, but we'd bring that forward to advise council ahead of moving forward with anything further.
All right. If you got a great name, come up with it, give it to Patrick. Yeah. Maybe we need to have a contest of naming. No, and Patrick shaking his head, no, thank you. Any further questions? All right, go ahead, Mike.
Just back to my initial question, Mr. Mayor, so is identifying and endorsing the same thing as appointing? Just for clarity on this recruitment on the board side.
So recruitment for the citizens is what you're talking about. So we're going to do social media, and we're also going to identify people that we know and ask them to apply. So we're going to put it out there that there may be people that we are not aware of that will want to apply and to have those skills that we're going to be looking for. And of course, we all know people that might fit that skill base, and we can ask them if they want to apply and give them the information to apply. Did that answer your question? Not really?
No offense, but no.
Okay.
So the process, that answered, but just the final, like, is endorsing the same as appointing? Like, will the candidates or the final names come back to council, or will that be done at a staff level based on the criteria that's established beforehand?
No, we would take a summary of the applications, bring it back to council, and have a chat and see who we see would be the best fit, yeah, collectively.
Yes, through you, Mayor. So if we speak to a member of the public we think might be good, and if they ask, is this a volunteer position, a stipend, a pay? What's the time commitment in case they ask? Like once a month meetings? Like what would they expect?
Through you, Mayor, I think that's something we could take back to our partners at Graham Capital, given their experience with another MSC that was recently established on what the expectations are. I can be clear, there's not it is a volunteer board position. There's not a honorarium or stipend for participation on the board.
Go ahead.
And just to add to that, I agree with Patrick, but I would anticipate that the first few months of operation would be maybe a little bit more frequent, and then once we kind of plateau, it would be normal one a month type meetings, yeah.
Anything further? So read the resolution again, and there's a change we need to make in the second line, or the second paragraph. It's moved by Councillor Woodham, seconded by Councillor Ottens, that council endorse the creation of a municipal service corporation for water and wastewater services based upon the business case study and public consultation undertaken throughout February 2025, and further that staff be directed to report back to council on the recruitment outcomes for 2 members of the board of directors from the general public. So we have to change that. I need a mover and a seconder for the change, please. Councillor Ottens and Councillor Reid. All in favor of the change? That's carried. Any further comments or questions at this point? Then we'll vote on the entire resolution. All in favor? That's carried. Great discussion. Thank you. Moving on to item 9.3.1, which is short-term rental. The resolution here is moved by Councillor Reid, seconded by Councillor Martin, that council receives the staff report for information purposes, and further that council provides staff with direction related to the licensing and regulation of short-term rental accommodations in the Township of Mapleton regarding the general regulatory objectives of health and safety, consumer protection, and impact on long-term housing supply be considered, and further that council approves the short-term rental definition as provided by the Government of Canada, and at minimum be included in the Township of Mapleton Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2010-080, and further that council directs staff to prepare the necessary documents and update the bylaw 2005-026 respecting the issuance of licenses within the Township of Mapleton to include a schedule for short-term rental accommodations, including an annual inspection renewal fee for council review, consideration, and approval. Michelle, you want to speak to this then, please?
Thank you, Mayor Davidson. So this is the second and follow-up report from the quite lengthy report that I provided to council back in 2024, actually, where we expressed to council the extreme of regulating short-term rental accommodations, and that was also brought forward based on the fact that we were going to be somewhat forced, had we been successful in receiving the half funding to allow for accessory dwelling units as of right, although we cannot do that in town currently because of our allocation. It was meant to be a bit of a proactive piece to that. Having said that, we also followed up with the survey that you have the results in front of you. The only thing you don't have access to are all of the separate individual comments. And unfortunately, I don't have one where there was one extreme or the other. So at the very least, my personal recommendation, I mean, we regulate, we have it in our zoning bylaw that we don't allow dog kennels, but yet we have a good number of them, and at the very least, every year, we ensure that they get inspected to ensure that they are safe and built to a proper standard. I would like to believe that we would do the same for that which we would allow humans to be in, because the ones that have come forward, although I do not have complaints, they've come to our attention because they were built without permits, they were built without proper anything in place. And although I do believe, because we do not have hotels, we do not have any other form of accommodation, that they are required. I'm not sure where the information got out to that we were opposed to them or looking to over-regulate them. My job is to present you with all of the options, so it is at whatever your will is. But also, as I mentioned in my previous report, as well as this one, a reminder that CRA, because both the province and the federal government have made it very clear about the priority of our housing crisis that we are under. We do not have a short-term rental accommodation crisis, and they've done their best to put forward policies in place to not encourage, because there are a lot of investment properties. Now, again, we have an election ahead of us, so who knows where all of that's going to end up. But at the end of the day, my minimum recommendation is that I would like to see us treat them, the very least, that we have our bylaw officer as well as our fire prevention officer go through once a year to ensure that, A, we have an accommodation, and clearly it would be completely voluntary to let us know, because I cannot report back to you on that which I do not have an account of. Or council can simply say it does not matter to you whether or not we currently have a definition for bed and breakfast, which is meant to be small, it is meant to be attached. We have had other individuals come forward to do a zoning amendment, which, as you know, is quite expensive, and that is because they've built outside of the principal residence, or they've built outside of what we allow the principal or the accessory dwelling to be, away from the principal dwelling. But you have the opportunity to direct me that it doesn't matter where, if it's an investment property, if it's short-term, if it's long-term, and we don't have to regulate this in any way, shape, or form. We have lots of individuals who certainly don't want us to regulate it in any direction whatsoever, but I also have no handle on how many are there, only the ones that have come forward that were not done to code or to any sort of specification. But if it's council's will that it doesn't matter if it's on a separate property, then I would like to have the opportunity to update that in our consolidated zoning bylaw so that I'm not forcing individuals to come forward and apply for quite an expensive zoning amendment. Thank you.
All right. Comments, questions from council? Councilor Reid.
Through you, Mayor, I just had one or two questions for our planner. For the short-term accommodations, you're saying at this point we don't really know how many we actually have? You're only aware of ones that are currently problematic, is that correct?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Davidson, to Councillor Reid. No, because, I mean, yes, I can tell you periodically how many I've been able to see on the other platforms such as Airbnb and Vrbo, and they change around. Plus, there's also Marketplace on Facebook. So I know what I see on social media, but outside of that, we don't track it in any way. And the ones that have come forward, unfortunately, were because we found out about them because they were done without a permit, or they were built outside of where we normally allow bed and breakfasts to take place. And as you know, we've had, other places come forward where they've come for their zoning amendment because they've built outside of the principal residence without permission, without a permit. And that's how we found out about them, and they had to come forward. So if they're, and now that, there's 3 as of right, we're getting our water and wastewater in place, and so far, almost no one has approached me to look for creating a accessory dwelling unit for long-term rental income. It's all been for short-term rental accommodation.
You have another question? No. Okay. Other questions? Councillor Ottens.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. It seems I guess this is kind of just more comments and sort of to the planner. It seems the ones that are problematic are not problematic because they're being disruptive or anything like that. It's because it was a permit issue, so that's more of a building code issue than a than a housing or a short-term rental issue to me. So that could be solved regardless of whether we had a short-term rental policy, I guess, in place. The ones that are on the lake are not allowed because the GRCA does not allow any of their cottages to be rented out, so that's a GRCA issue. So we don't need to regulate that at all because they're not supposed to rent the cottages out at all. That's right in our rental agreement as a cottager, we see that. So the ones who are doing that, that is not really something we as a township need to deal with. That's something GRCA needs to deal with. And I assume that's where you would see most of them in Mapleton, would be on the lake, possibly. So I'm not really in favor of over-regulating anything like this. If it turned into a problematic noise, mess bylaw type issue kind of thing, we have bylaw for that. So I don't really want to license or regulate this all that much. I think the GRCA can handle the ones that are their problem, and we can let the rest kind of go for now.
Comments, questions? Anyone else? Mr. Martin?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Michelle, for this detailed report. I mean, my comments aren't going to be surprising. I think I've been pretty clear on my position on this licensing system kind of from the start, but I think even in places in the province where a licensing system like this is required, it's a headache. It's been a pretty public headache, and it's expensive, and there's always a levy impact anyway. I think the proposal's legitimate, and I think it's probably creating a solution for a problem that doesn't exist, kind of piggybacking on Councillor Otten's comments. So I'm not particularly supportive of it at this time. Thanks.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Councillor Woodham?
Thank you, Mayor Davidson. It would just be a comment. I would support the fact of having the definition in our comprehensive zoning bylaw, of at least adding that, just so that it does give our planning department something. But I don't think at this time we need to go further and complicate the system.
Thank you. So, Michelle, so it's the one clause you have here in the recommendation is that council approve the short-term rental definition as provided by the Government of Canada and at minimum be included in the Township of Mapleton Comprehensive Bylaw 2010-080. So it seems that council is not going to endorse everything else. Is that the line that would be helpful for planning to have that into that bylaw piece? Is there anything else we're missing if we say we don't want short-term rental? Is there anything else that we actually have to have? Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor Davidson. Yeah, that at the very least, I need to be able to, I mean, I can make up all kinds of definitions, but again, just like I said in my original report, I'm doing my best to strike a balance because CRA has clearly said if the municipality does not allow it, and based on our current definition, although it doesn't say short-term rental accommodation, a bed and breakfast is a short-term rental accommodation, which we've had in our bylaw forever and a day, and it's worked just fine up until now. It's the additional ARUs that are allowed as of right that has caused this, not because anybody was doing anything bad, not because I don't want them, but technically, if you are a short-term rental accommodation owner and you want to claim any kind of loss or expenses, you should not be allowed to do that in the Township of Mapleton because we do not have a definition that says we allow them. So that's why I've said at a bare minimum, I need that. What I would also like, in terms of direction from council, is whether or not these short-term rental accommodations, because right now bed and breakfasts need to be within the principal residence, we've already extended and council has proven that they're quite happy to have other accessory dwelling units outside of the principal residence. I need to know whether or not you want any other restrictions or whether or not people can purchase up properties and simply have them as Airbnbs, whether anybody's there or not, because that will help me in terms of adding more to this definition. That what you're looking at is the minimum, but if council has a desire for anything further, I need to know, I would like to know what that is. I shouldn't say I need to know, because we'll be coming back for our housekeeping piece, and we'll update it then, and you can refine it at that point. But I can tell you right now that I have a number of individuals who are waiting for a decision from you, so they know whether or not they need to come forward and ask for a zoning amendment, because what they're proposing to do is outside of our current definition. And as long as I know what your intention is, then I can go ahead, because I have enough administrative authority to say that they no longer require a zoning amendment.
Thank you. So from council, we're going to need some direction then. As was pointed out from Michelle, we had the short-term accommodation, rental accommodation. Do we want it in the principal residence? Are we going to allow it outside the principal residence? That we have some of those already in the township where they're just accommodations that no one lives in, and that's all it's used for. So do we want to allow that in our definition? Do we have any other restrictions we want to put in there? And this is the information that would be very helpful. Councilor Reid.
Through you, Mayor, just a question there in regards to Marlene, Councillor Otten's statement about the GCRA. Does that need to be in there, stipulating that the ones that are on that property are not our responsibility?
Michelle?
I'm so sorry, I didn't hear that.
A question regarding the rentals that are on GRCA property. Do we have to put anything in our bylaws when we don't regulate GRCA property?
Thank you, Mayor Davidson, through you to Councillor Reid. Sorry, I didn't hear that at all. No, we don't need to. We've already have a section in our zoning bylaw that speaks to that. And what's very interesting is that although absolutely nobody showed up for the public meeting, and I really wasn't expecting it because we had 121 people, and it's a lot easier, and I'm going to get a lot more honest information through the surveys. So some of the pieces that you don't see because they were in the individual comments, clearly people were saying how much they enjoy renting cottages on the lake, which is absolutely not allowed, but it doesn't matter because that's not my area and we don't regulate it. We definitely, we're in constant communication with that. I mean, a lot of the other ones are definitely, they're more rural, and we definitely have some in town, and that, you know, those are other issues that are, you know, guided by other pieces, but no, we don't need to include anything about that.
So just a clarification from my standpoint, Michelle, and maybe for council. So the one restriction we talk about is being the principal residence or not. That is going to be very helpful for you going forward, whether it be a principal residence or not. Is there anything further besides that one that would stick out? Because I personally don't know of any other restrictions that might be needed, and maybe you have more information that you could share with council of what else might be needed that you see from your point that needs to be in this piece.
Thank you, Mayor Davidson. I think I've made my opinions very clear with both my previous and my current report. But again, at the will of council, we can make this really easy. 3 as of right, Airbnb, a regular B&B is just simply allowed. You don't have to put anything else onto it. I can just add that short-term rental accommodations are allowed as of right anywhere in the township and not dictated by zone, because we do have very specific areas that we allow for bed and breakfast, but depending on the way council wishes to vote, we'll change that as well. That'll all get updated.
Thank you. Councilor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you know, I'm very easily confused by planning language. So two things. So the first one is, why do, for Planner Brown, So why do we care about rental owners reporting their income and being able to claim eligible expenses? Like, for me, that's between them and the CRA, why the Township of Mapleton would care about that, I don't know. And then the second part is, just so I'm clear, so if our zoning bylaw remains as is and doesn't identify a short-term rental with the definition, we're suggesting that, or sorry, you're suggesting that these applications would need to come forward as a zoning application for them to exist. Is that correct?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Davidson. So, question number one, I don't care either. It has absolutely nothing to do with us. I'm not looking to have any of their personal information. What I'm saying is CRA cares, and they put forward that stipulation that unless we have a definition that allows that in our municipality, they are not allowed to claim those expenses. So I'm just looking to make sure that we do have something in there so they can, should they ever need it or if they were to be audited. So it's a benefit to them. I'm not asking for anything. The idea that I had around registering it was just so we could have an idea of how many we have. It does not in any way, shape, or form impact their taxes. It's still considered residential, although it's for a commercial purpose. It doesn't impact them in any way, shape, or form that way. It was just a way for us to keep on top of it because of the 3 as of right. And once, my apologies, I was just trying to be proactive in what that might look like in terms of having a handle on it in the future. As far as their income, makes no difference to us or the municipality. We're not entitled, not asking for it. Question number 2, the way that our definition has been set up currently is just strictly for Airbnbs, bed and breakfast, based on our definition in specific zones that allow, we have different levels. What I'm hearing is that we're going to eliminate all of that, which also counts as a short form, like a short-term rental accommodation, and it doesn't have to be in your principal residence anymore, is what I'm hearing. And therefore, nobody needs to come forward again to get a zoning amendment to have any of their ARUs, if they get built beyond or wherever they are on the property, it no longer needs to be just simply in your principal residence. And we can just simply have it as of right. If we don't do that, then anything outside of that would have to come back for a zoning amendment. Or at the very least, I wouldn't say zoning anymore. I would call it a minor variance because of the 3 as of right.
And I guess the challenge would be if we just say that it's in their principal residence, or not just in their principal residence, that people could buy up a bunch of homes and then make them short-term rental accommodation. I think that's what Michelle has been telling us, that if they buy up the entire Maple Street, and they can put them all in short-term rentals if they wanted to, because we don't have any, if we're saying it doesn't have to be their principal residence. So that's something that council should consider when we continue this discussion. Councilor Reid?
Through you, Mayor, I'm not sure who, probably Michelle, this would be directed to, I apologize. I'm wondering, so if we make this change to the definition and we go ahead but not make any of the other changes, if there are complaints made to our township through bylaw, let's say in regards to noise or something like that, that would just be addressed through bylaw. If we ever had to revisit this because they were constantly happening, we could then obviously propose something new down the road, correct?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. To you, Councillor Reid. The issue with bylaw is that bylaw works the same hours that our office is open. The majority of noise complaints will happen in the evening or on the weekends, which go to the police. So although other neighbors might complain, complaining after the fact is not going to be helpful to bylaw unless council decides that they want a bylaw that works. Different shifts or whatnot. Otherwise, those go directly to the police, and I don't get reports from them. I think things more like if there's garbage, if people are there in the summer and have parties, especially closer to the lake, let's say, those are the sorts of bylaw infractions that we would hear about that we might be able to action. But most of those types of complaints happen after hours, which was why in the original piece, if we were going to go down a different road, we would like to have at least somebody that we can contact to say, we need to follow up on this, because lots of people we know have properties here and they don't live here in the township.
And Councillor Reid, at any time, council can always bring back any piece and have a rediscussion on it. If it does become a problem, if we don't approve this today and it does become a problem 2 years from now, 3 years from now, that council absolutely can ask staff to readdress this. Councillor Martin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure who to address this to, if it's the CAO or the manager of planning again. But, so if we define a short-term rental in our zoning bylaw, is there a real or perceived risk by not regulating that particular industry? So are we opening ourselves up to maybe going down that rabbit hole eventually anyway, because we're kind of acknowledging their existence? Whereas if we maintain status quo and it's not defined, we use our existing, zoning bylaw, and if, like, is there a risk down the road that by defining it and not regulating it or licensing it, that it might be a risk for us?
Well, it's not a fair question. Yeah, it's up in the air. That's a great question, but I don't know if anybody else can answer that. Manny?
Through your worship, I don't have the answer. I can absolutely and happily would try to find that information for us and bring it back to council. But at this moment, I don't have the answer to that.
Go ahead, Michelle. A half answer.
Thank you, Mayor Davidson. To your point, Councillor Martin, I would say that the more hands-off you are, perhaps, the less risk there is, because we do not regulate it in any way. But again, that's the piece that I'm sure Manny will be looking for. But again, just from my own thoughts and feelings about, we do inspections for dog kennels. I would like to think if we're going to allow and have this, that we would at least want to make sure. But again, that's really, we don't do it for apartment buildings. We don't do it for anything else. So there's no real need. Again, originally this happened because 3 as of right, and if we were going to be forced to have 4, to have a handle on the number of them that were coming forward. And had we received funding, it was meant to be for long-term housing accommodation. But since we don't have that funding, the need or pressure that I felt to bring this forward is certainly a lot less. But to the best of my knowledge, no one's been sued because somebody else was operating in something that we've had nothing to do with, but we get sued for all kinds of reasons too. So that I would think would be a lawyer question.
Anything further? The one other option, Council, to Councillor Reid's question, we can take this and defer it indefinitely, and it can be brought back at any time. It's deferred indefinitely, not to a specific time. There's that option as well. Go ahead.
How does that affect, I think the manager of planning said there is some potential applications in the hopper waiting for our answer on this.
If we defer this as we see right now, nothing changes as we currently have it. We just go status quo as what we're currently doing. There's no changes, no change to the definition, no change to anything. It's just status quo is what we have right now, and defer this indefinitely. Councilor Reid?
Sorry, through you, Mayor. So let's say we did decide to defer this indefinitely. Those ones that we call sitting in the pipeline, as Councilor Otten said, would they then, if they came to us, have to go through our normal zoning changes in that process instead, or they would just be dead in the water technically?
Michelle?
Feeling very popular all of a sudden. But, well, that's the whole reason for bringing it forward, because the way, like, our definition is very specific in your principal residence. It's why the Shelley, that you just recently approved her zoning amendment, although she's looking to do something completely different, that originally came forward because she built outside of the principal residence and had it as an Airbnb. And technically, that was well outside of the area. So no matter what she was going, if she wanted to maintain that as an Airbnb, she had to come forward for a zoning amendment, but instead she has this other, much larger plan, which council has approved. So she, yes, as depending on how this goes, she is not allowed currently under our bylaw, and what you approved does not permit her to rent that out as an Airbnb while she's, say, looking for some other liquidity to help with her business case, to have funds to build the rest that she wants to put on that property. Not any different than the gentleman with the kennel that was in place for 20 years, as well as the unit built outside of the principal residence came forward for a zoning amendment. So I would have to treat absolutely everybody else the same and have them come forward for a zoning amendment outside of that. And those who do have an Airbnb, should they ever be audited or request a letter from us to provide with their deductions from CRA, I would have to say we do not allow them.
Okay. Council's directions then. Councilor Ottens?
I think we just need to keep it as simplistic as possible and define them alongside the bed and breakfast. Do we inspect the bed and breakfasts locally every year, or are they just existing and carry on business as usual? And this could be under that same umbrella. We know they're there, we know they exist. I mean, it might be handy for us to have a list of all the ones we have, just from a business standpoint, to know if people ask, where can we stay? I mean, it's not a dumb thing to have on file anyways for our township. So I think as simplistically as possible, just have them included under the same umbrella as the bed and breakfasts.
So do we inspect them? That's the question. Mike, answer that question, please. Okay, go ahead.
The building department wouldn't inspect them unless they were found to be in violation of the building code. We would not have the authority to just go do inspections.
Okay, Michelle?
Because it's written in our zoning bylaw, as of right, they're allowed to have them there, so they wouldn't have to ask for permission. And again, they're not designed as a separate unit. They are a part of the house, so they would have been inspected originally when the house was first being built, unless, of course, they were adding a washroom and needed a plumbing permit or something of that nature. But no, so we do not record them because we don't need to. But they've already been as of right.
Thank you both for your answers. Clear as mud. Perfect. Yeah, we're getting a lot here of, council's chewing on this, trying to figure out what's the best way of going, and this is, thank you for your support and help, and for everything you've been doing and answering all these questions. I know you're on the hot seat, but please, go ahead.
No, again, my job is just to present you with the facts.
Yes.
It's up to you to make the decisions. You have the hard part, not me. Again, I would respectfully ask that you not defer this, ideally. But you can truly just make this simple and say that you want them as of right. You don't have to charge for anything. It's purely voluntary if people want to let us know that they exist, or you can at the very least just say that you want to allow them, and when we come back for housekeeping, you can put that on us to create some definitions for you to mull over, so you don't have to spend your night tonight beating this over and over again. But if council is truly okay with having it be as of right, that whatever people want to do with their extra accessory dwelling units, that you're okay with it, then we can stop the, for lack of a better word, the community that likes to say that it's all a big money grab, and I'm really not sure where people thought I was getting extra staff out of it, but it's really just looking for a definition so that we can at the very least put it in our, and if people want to voluntarily let us know, then that's great. But you don't have to regulate it and charge it.
And just like you, Michelle, I have to provide options, so we're both providing options. Councillor Reid.
Through you, Mayor, just one more question. I'm not sure who it's directed to, so I'll, probably Mike. If someone's adding one of these units, short-term rental to their property, would we at least be addressing it through a building permit?
Through you, Mayor. Absolutely. If they wanted to have a short-term accommodation, either make a basement apartment or ARU, we would do the exact same process as if they were building another unit on their property for long-term. So the building department wouldn't differentiate between short-term and long-term as far as inspecting would go and permitting.
Go ahead, Councillor Woodham.
Thank you, Mayor Davidson. So I think I'm going to go back and saying the same thing. Am I under the right correction in that if keeping it as simple as possible, as Councillor Ottens is saying, just by adding that council approves short-term rental definition as provided by the Government of Canada at the minimum be included in the Township of Mapleton Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2010-080 will be it. That will just allow, that's saying we recognize it, we have it, and just let it be.
And that's what Michelle has said at minimum she would like us to do, at minimum. But with the caveat, I think, of do you want to allow them in the principal residence only or outside the principal residence? That was the other piece that Michelle had brought forward. So that's the other piece that council has. It's great to have that definition, but are we doing it principal residence only or allowing it outside the principal residence? So how about we hear your feedback on that, council? I think we're all set that we're just going to be what was just read by Councillor Woodham. That might be the only piece that we're going to add in today, besides receiving the staff information for information, or the staff report for information, and then that piece that Councillor Woodham just read. But if that's where we're going, then Michelle has asked that we also discuss whether or not it's principal residence or outside of principal residence as well. Thoughts on that, please? Councilor Woodham.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Davidson. Okay, I guess back to our building department. If we decided that we were to say that it's principal residence or outside, again, when they're creating this, they still will have to follow building code and having a building permit, et cetera, and that's how we will monitor it, correct?
Through you, Mayor. That's how we would monitor it. However, if you would just let anyone have an Airbnb in their basement, they would never apply for a building permit. They would just lease their basement out without any inspections done, without any construction done.
Thanks, Mike. You didn't add anything to our discussion at all there. Thanks. All right, Councilor Reid, you're just about to push a button. I saw you. Then you pulled back. It's a tough one. It is. You know, we have some of these, as was pointed out by Michelle, that they're not in the principal residence. We have some that may be in the principal residence. And when we get our water and wastewater, or actually our wastewater, we're pretty good with water now, but when we get our wastewater in, which is coming next fall, not this fall, but in 2026, that's what our goal is. We're going to have houses being built and allocation being allowed for our current residents to add units. So that's where, you know, Mike is talking about, they don't have to tell us anything, they can just go and add a unit, that's going to have the allocation is there. I know we have, Manny is, and of course Michelle has received people asking all the time, do we have allocation? I want to add a unit to my house. So if this is the case, if we're going to add unit to the house, so that would be where you just keep it in the principal residence, or do we allow it outside? And so we have to look at this, as Councillor Martin and Councillor Ottens point out, it's not a problem now. And that's where the deferral might have happened. I know you don't want the deferral, but, and bring it up later, as Councillor Reid had pointed out, because this might become a problem 2 years from now. Maybe not a problem now, but it might become a problem 2 years from now, which the council of the day will have to address then. But where do we go today? Mike didn't help, so we go to council here. Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Ottens.
Oh, sorry. I'm okay in or out, like inside the principal residence or beyond, because people are going to have the separate little building outside of their house. Most of them will be that way, right? Like, I mean, I'm not gonna rent someone's basement and live in there for a weekend. Like, I mean, you know, most people want the separate facility. So I feel like that's what, it's gotta be included. So that would be my thoughts.
Okay. Mike, you're about to push the button?
I was going to say, you're giving Mike a hard time about not being useful, but he looks really good tonight, so. I do think we should make a decision on this tonight. I think there's been lots of information pushed out over the last 6 months, and a lot of time and energy put into this. I think that you're right, like, that I think it's not particularly an issue now. I think that if we define what it is within the comprehensive zoning bylaw, but stick to that it needs to be within the principal residence, and then if there is a demand for it down the road, we can get some numbers, some data, some, you know, if these ARUs are, you know, blowing us up, everyone's getting an extra, you know, 2-3 units, we've got capacity to accommodate it, you know, we can kind of take a look at what we want to do locally. Because I don't know this for a fact, I would suggest that allocation for an ARU is the same as a regular rental property or a permanent house, right? Like, you'd have to have the capacity, even if it's only being rented on weekends, so you'd hate that the housing stock would suddenly get dictated towards one particular, like the short-term rentals versus regular housing, if capacity becomes an issue at some point down the road again, after we've fixed it, of course, and then, yeah. So that's kind of what I would like to see, I think.
So you're okay with it, you're thinking just in the principal residence, is what you're thinking. Marlene, you were thinking either way, it doesn't matter. Councillor Reid, let's go, stay on this side of the table.
I'm also okay with the short-term rental definition being added into the Mapleton Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw. I think it's important, after all the work that's been done, to A, acknowledge it, and B, give it a definition so we can move forward with the applications that are there. Just for clarity, I have one question about principal residence. We're saying that the owner has to live there, whether it's the ARU or it's the actual residence that's being rented, or are you saying it's someone owning a second property and renting that one out?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Davidson. So a principal residence, just by its definition, is, yes, somebody is there living in the unit as their principal residence and not as an investment property.
So by definition, I would like to say principal residence as well, please.
Councillor Ottens.
Oh, she's already.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Wood. My apologies.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Davidson, I would support putting it in comprehensive zoning bylaw and principal residence only.
All right, so we got 3 principal residents here and in the comprehensive zoning bylaw. So the clerk and I are going to work on this a little bit. So the recommendation that I'm hearing from council is that council receives a staff report for information purposes, and further that council approves the short-term rental definition as approved, definition as provided by the Government of Canada, and at a minimum be included in the Township Mapleton Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw 2010-080, and further that the short-term rental would only be allowed in a principal residence. Would that work? Yes?
That is exactly the definition we have now. If that's what you're going with,
Right.
then everything stays status quo. Anything outside of the principal residence will require a zoning amendment or a minor variance.
So we do not need to add that piece of line in,
Nope.
we just add in the comprehensive
You're
zoning
just
bylaw.
adding
Okay.
in what that means. Unless you are okay with investment properties and nobody living on site.
Okay, council's direction from my hearing is principal residence only. If that's already in the definition, then we'll just go with what the Government of Canada's definition is to put into the comprehensive zoning bylaw. That would satisfy what we're doing. Any questions on that? So we know what we're voting on then? We're going, so I need a mover and a seconder to alter the recommendation to remove the second paragraph and the last paragraph. Councillor Reid, Councillor Woodham, all in favor? Okay, so we now remove the second paragraph and the last paragraph, and also, sorry, and further at the end of the third paragraph. So now it's the council receives a staff report for information purposes, and that council approves the short-term rental definition, that piece only. Everyone's clear? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much, staff and council, for this discussion. Thank you so much for the hard work put into that between Michelle and you and bylaw, and of course, Mike. Very important that, you know, it's great to have this kind of thing. You know, it's brought forward, and we sit here, we discuss it, and look at it. You know, council asked for this to be brought forward when it was initially, and it was brought forward, and now we have the information, public consultation, even though no one came, but we had a lot of people that actually responded to it via email or elsewhere. So I just want to think of how important it is to have that process and keeping the community involved as well. Let's move on to the next piece, which is approval of bylaws. Which we don't have any, right, Mr. Clerk? Okay, look at that. That's got to be the first time we've done this without an approval of any bylaw. That's why it's a little shocking here. We have a number of council's information there on item number 12. Does anybody wish to speak to any of the items on number 12? Councillor Reid, you're up first.
Through you, Mayor, 12.1, I would just like to thank you for the county council report for February 2025. I do find them very helpful and imperative for us to know the things that are going on. So I appreciate that. One question that did come up, and I didn't see anything about it in your county report, is there an update yet for recycling for a residential area?
As in the new recycling program that's coming out. So there's information that's just coming. We just had a committee meeting today. And we're doing the local businesses. So all the local businesses in Drayton and Moorfield have been hand-delivered information on how they can get to do their recycling, because the new program that's coming from the province will not pick up businesses institutional, commercial. So those all have been hand-delivered to those that were still open. The staff have gone around 3 times. They're going to go around 1 more time to get those people that, those businesses that weren't there when they went around the first couple times. So that's going around again. As for residential, we have no more information on yet. We know that June 1st or July 1st is the transition to the provincial program, but we won't see much of a change until January of next year is when everything kicks in. What we're seeing, though, is that mixed recycling will happen. Instead of having the dual system that we have, it'll be one stream. This is anecdotal from the other communities that have already transitioned. They have the bin. Mind you, all the communities that have transitioned that we're aware of already had the bin system, so they're staying with that system. So we don't really know if it's going to be a bin. It's likely going to be a bin because they probably want to keep it uniform across the province. The products going in are standardized, so we're hearing today at the meeting that, you know, even Tim Hortons cups or coffee cups of sorts are allowed into these bins now. So that's going to be a big change for the public to see all the different items that are going to be allowed into this new box program. But January of next year will be we transition July this year, but the biggest changes will happen January next year.
Just a follow-up to that, with solid waste, are they thinking if they go the bin route that it's going to be bins for garbage as well? Or is that not discussed yet?
So because the county will not be doing recycling at all, so it's up to the producers to decide if we have the bins for that or not, or stay with the blue boxes. When it comes to the garbage side of things, we're hearing from our contractor right now that they are looking at going to the bin system, but our contract is for another few years still. So we'll probably stay with what we have for the next few years unless we change that contract early. Okay. Anything else on item number 12 that anybody wishes to speak to? Item number 13, notice of motion. 15, other business. Councilor Reid.
Through you, Mayor, I just wanted to let council know that I have joined the board of directors for Crime Stoppers Guelph Wellington. Official as of a couple days ago, my first meeting being tomorrow.
Congratulations on that. It's big, taking the responsibility of Mr. Craven, because he was on this council and was on that for many, many years. So you'll be doing the shredding event, and you'll be doing the mulch event that's coming up very shortly. I think the mulch event's May 10th, so that's very soon, to support Crime Stoppers. And of course, I always like doing the shredding event and bring my banker's boxes of stuff. Anything else? Councillor Ottens.
Yeah, I should mention that Safe Communities is doing their second annual Safe Kids Day in Mapleton on May 24, Saturday, May 24, in the municipal parking lot. We did it last year by the fire hall. It was quite successful. It was sort of an impulsive little throw-together thing, and we had a lot of people coming. So this is more in, we have the fire department, police, ambulance. We're going to have a car seat clinic. Farm safety is going to be there, and all the kids who attend and give a safety tip get a coupon for Alamode ice cream. So we're hoping it's good weather. Eventually the sun will shine and the snow will go away. So hopefully by May 24, and it will be hopefully a good day, and we'll have a good kickoff to a safe summer.
So May 24th at the PMD.
No, at the municipal parking lot downtown.
Downtown.
So they can get their
Municipal parking lot.
coupon and go
Okay.
straight to Alamode
Oh, that's perfect.
from 11 a.m. till 2 p.m.
11 till 2, and anybody's invited?
Everybody's invited.
Everybody's invited. So Safe Communities Day, May 24th, 11 to 2, municipal parking lot across the road from the fire hall in Drayton.
Yep.
Perfect, thank you. Anything further? All right, so last week was the Good Roads Conference, and it's a good conference for Mapleton. We were down there, but while we were down there, we had a good meeting with Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Mr. Flack, who just newly minted into his position. Manny and Patrick and I went down to his offices. It wasn't a delegation. We actually just went down and had a chat with him. It was set up by Matt Ray, and Matt was there as well, and one of the staff members. And we had a very good conversation about Mapleton and what we were doing and what our processes that we're doing here, and asking for their support and their guidance. And Minister Flack was quite interested in what we're doing here in Mapleton, and gave us some ideas, and will be working with us moving forward with, and I said, Matt Ray is staying in that position, so it's very good for us that Matt and Minister Flack. We had that great meeting, and that we'll be moving forward, and to hear the excitement from them of what we're doing and what we're hoping to accomplish. And Minister Flack being brand new, I think we were probably one of his first, municipal meetings, because we were there at 9 o'clock in the morning. It was really early. There was someone before us, but that wasn't a municipality. But just to see his excitement of being in the position and as well, and we'd just like to thank Matt Ray for helping us set up that meeting, and for Minister Flack for meeting with us. And we look forward to future meetings with him, and set up other ones. And I would like to have a council day down in Queen's Park too. I know Amanda and I talked about it before, so I'll work with Matt and doing that in the future. I'm also going to work on that for the mayors across the county. So now that we have they're getting their feet wet and all the positions are in place, so it's something that's I think is important that we go down there and show Mapleton and show Wellington County, who we are and what we do. So we'll continue on with the good work. And I just want to thank Patrick and Manny for being there. And Minister Flack had some questions, and it was these two guys that were just right there to answer what I didn't know. And there's a lot I don't know, so I was really glad they were there. So just appreciate that. Moving on to item number 16 then is a resolution to go into a closed session, which is moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Reid, that Township Mapleton Council move into closed session to consider the following subject matters: personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal employees. All in favor? That's carried. We're going in the closed. Let's take a 5-minute recess.